Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
I've been working at SuperSafe Grocery for almost 3 years now in the customer service department. The pay is decent and most of my co-workers are great to be around, except for our department manager. She plays favorites and it drives the rest of us up the wall. Here's how things work in our department. We have team leads who supervise us regular employees. But since customer service is always swamped, we can't be left without supervision. That's why every day one regular employee gets assigned as the acting team lead, or ATL, when the actual team leads need to step away or help other departments. My friend, I'll call her my co-worker for this story, is one of our team leads. She's fair, organized, and doesn't take nonsense from anyone. Our department manager constantly tries to replace the scheduled ATL with one of her buddies, usually this guy I'll call the favorite. The whole mess started on a Saturday, which is always our busiest day. Customers lined up to return items, cash checks, buy lottery tickets, you name it. My coworker came in for her shift and asked another employee, let's call her the hard worker, to reorganize the gift card display since it was a disaster after the Friday rush. The hard worker nodded and got to work. A few minutes later, the favorite walked over and told her to go help at register 5 instead. She told him that she was already working on a task for my co-worker. The favorite walked away. Everyone thought it was over. About an hour later, the hard worker and my co-worker both got called into the manager's office. I was covering returns nearby and could hear parts of the conversation. In the office, the manager asked the hard worker why she hadn't followed the favorite's instructions. The hard worker said she was already working on something that the team lead had asked her to do. The manager told her that the favorite was the acting team lead, so she should have listened to him. My co-worker said that, according to the schedule, the favorite wasn't the ATL today. The manager said she had told him he could be in charge, and it didn't matter. The hard worker should have listened to the favorite instead of continuing with my co-worker's task. When they came out of the office, my co-worker looked ready to explode. Instead of yelling, I saw a little smile on her face. That's when I knew something interesting was about to happen. My co-worker told the hard worker that since the favorite was in charge of their department today, they were going to help produce instead, as they had been asking for extra hands all morning. The hard worker looked confused but followed my co-worker to the produce section, leaving the favorite as the only leader in our department. On a Tuesday morning, this might have been fine, but on a Saturday, chaos was inevitable. I was scheduled to leave at that point, so I clocked out and was talking with my co-worker in produce when the manager's voice came over the radio. The manager asked why the wait times were so high in customer service, saying that the metrics were showing 15-minute waits. My co-worker said she didn't know since she wasn't back there, but the favorite was, so he should know. After a pause, the manager told her that the favorite wasn't in charge of the department and that she needed my co-worker back there now to run things. My co-worker asked the manager about saying in her office that the favorite was the acting team lead today. The manager just told her to get back to customer service right away. My co-worker said she would be right there. She turned to me with a grin and kept stacking apples. Her cart was barely half empty. She told me she'd finish this before heading back, adding that since the favorite wanted to be in charge, he could handle it for a few more minutes. I laughed as I headed out the door. I can only imagine what the department looked like by then. Lines backed up to the dairy section, customers getting frustrated, and the favorite overwhelmed. The next day when I came in, I heard that the department had recorded the worst customer satisfaction metrics of the month. The regional manager had even called to ask what happened. My co-worker didn't get in trouble either. When asked, she said she was following the manager's directive that the favorite was in charge of the department. That's what she had been told. Since then, the manager has been careful about following the actual ATL schedule. Things change when your own favoritism comes back to bite you. The hard worker got trained as an ATL the following week. The higher-ups noticed she was one of the few calm heads during the Saturday disaster. Malicious compliance works. This incident happened last Tuesday when I took my son grocery shopping after his basketball practice. I'm a single dad raising my 12-year-old boy. His mom left when he was just 4, and it's been the two of us ever since. He's a good kid, respectful, does well in school, and loves sports. I work as an IT consultant, which gives me flexible hours to be there for him. We needed to pick up groceries on our way home from his practice that day. He was still in his practice clothes, a bit sweaty, but excited to tell me about the new plays his coach had taught them. The store wasn't crowded, so I let him push the cart while I grabbed items from the shelves. My son asked if we could get some cookies, pointing to a display at the end of the aisle. I told him we could, but limited him to just one package as I reached for some pasta sauce. When we turned the corner into the next aisle, my son accidentally bumped our cart into an empty car that was parked at an odd angle. It wasn't a hard collision, just a light tap that barely made a sound. The cart belonged to a woman in her 40s. My son immediately said sorry to the woman. The woman started yelling at my son, telling him he was extremely rude and claiming he could have damaged her cart. I stepped forward, confused by her reaction. I tried to explain that it was just a small bump and that he had already said sorry. The woman told us that my son's apology wasn't good enough. She said he didn't even seem sorry about the incident. My son looked up at me, confused and embarrassed. I tried to reason with the woman again, explaining that it was an accident. The carts barely touched, and since hers was empty, no harm had been done. The woman demanded money, saying that the incident was harassment. Some other shoppers had stopped to watch. I tried to calm things down, saying it was just a small accident. I said sorry again, but told her we wanted to continue our shopping. The woman wouldn't let us leave. She demanded that my son pay for her groceries. My son and I looked at each other. I asked her why she expected payment for accidentally bumping an empty cart. My son, who had been quiet, finally spoke up. He reminded her that he had already said sorry and that the bump was an accident. The woman still wasn't happy. She told my son that sorry wasn't enough and that he needed to learn respect. She wanted him to pay for everything she was buying that day. I put my hand on my son's shoulder and told her that her request was unreasonable. I explained again that we had apologized and there was no damage, then said we were leaving. We tried to walk past her, but she blocked the aisle with her cart, saying we couldn't go until she got what she wanted. My son got frustrated. He told the woman she was acting crazy, pointing out that he had only bumped an empty cart by accident and had already said sorry. The woman's eyes went wide. She reached over to a nearby display of kitchen supplies and grabbed a chef's knife still in its packaging. She threw the knife directly at my son. The knife hit my son in the chest, handle first. The packaging prevented any cutting, but the impact knocked him back a step. He looked at the knife on the floor, then back at me wide-eyed. I froze for a second. Someone had thrown a knife at my child in a grocery store over a shopping cart bump. Before I could move toward the woman, a store security guard who had been coming our way sprinted forward. He tackled the woman to the ground as she was reaching for another item from the shelf. The security guard called for backup through his radio, asking for 911 and the manager. The woman was pinned to the ground. She screamed about her rights and claimed we had attacked her first. I hugged my son and checked him for injuries. I asked my son if he was okay. He said he was fine, adding that the knife had hit him with a handle part. His voice was shaking. Other shoppers gathered around us. One woman brought my son water. Another man helped collect our groceries. The store manager arrived with police officers. The security footage showed everything: my son's accident, his apology, the woman's demands, and her attack with the knife. The police arrested her. An officer told me later that she had done similar things at other stores, though none as violent. The manager gave us our groceries for free and my son a gift card. That night, my son had trouble sleeping. We talked about how some people have problems managing their anger. I told him he had done nothing wrong. We've been back to that store since then. The first time my son was nervous and stayed close to me, but each visit gets easier. The woman faces charges for assault with a deadly weapon against a minor. She'll likely serve time, especially with her history. My son is resilient. He tells the story to his friends like an adventure, though I still see fear in his eyes when he talks about it. This happened about 15 years ago. I was in my late 20s, working a dead-end job at an insurance company I hated. The only thing that made life bearable was my friends and our weekend adventures. One of my buddies worked at this fancy bar and restaurant right on Lake Henderson. The place had valet parking, expensive cocktails, and boat rentals. The restaurant overlooked the water, surrounded by massive waterfront mansions. My friend could use the rental boats for free during weekdays when business was slow, so one Wednesday, we took advantage of this. 6 of us piled into a pontoon boat with a cooler full of beer, snacks, and a portable speaker. 2 of my friends brought fishing poles, hoping to catch something worth bragging about. We spent 3 hours cruising around the lake, checking out the mansions, playing music, and drinking too many beers. My buddies caught nothing but weeds and an old shoe, which became the running joke of the day. The weather was sunny with just enough breeze to keep us cool. By mid-afternoon, those beers caught up with us, and we needed a bathroom break. My friend said we could dock back at the restaurant and use their facilities. We pulled up to the dock and everyone jumped off the boat rushing to find a bathroom. I called out, asking if someone was going to stay with the boat. My friend who worked there said since I'd had the least to drink, I should watch it for 5 minutes. Everyone disappeared, leaving me alone with our boat. I sat there watching people and enjoying the breeze when I noticed a couple approaching in what looked like a $200,000 wooden speedboat. One of those mahogany classics with chrome accents. I recognized the model, Arriva Aquarama, the kind of boat only old money or new success could afford. The guy driving was struggling. The wind had picked up, and every time he got close to the dock, a gust pushed him away. He looked frustrated, and his wife or girlfriend stood nervously at the front of the boat. I jumped up onto the dock and called out, offering help, asking if he wanted me to grab his rope. The man tossed the mooring rope without responding. I caught it and secured his boat to the dock with a proper knot. I stepped back, expecting maybe a nod or thanks. Instead, the guy told me most people would move their boat to the windward side so others could dock easier. His tone was mean. No thank you or nod, just criticism that I hadn't done enough for him. I stood confused. I had just helped this stranger when I didn't have to. I looked from him to our pontoon boat, which wasn't even in his way, back to him. Without a word, I untied his boat and tossed his rope into the water. His boat started drifting away from the dock. The rich guy yelled, asking what I was doing. I said I thought he wanted to dock on the other side, and it was my mistake. I sat back down in our boat. The engine of his wooden boat was off, and he was trying to restart it while drifting further away. I heard his wife ask why he always had to be an a-hole when I was helping them. He told her to shut up and grab the paddle. For 10 minutes, he struggled to restart his engine while cursing. His boat kept drifting away, and he nearly fell into the water reaching for something. A few other boaters watched the scene unfold, some hiding their smiles behind their hands. My friends returned in time to see this. When I explained what happened, they laughed and clinked their beer bottles with mine. My friend who worked there said the guy was a regular who tipped poorly and complained about everything. He also mentioned the man owned 3 car dealerships in the area and treated his employees just as badly. Eventually, the rich guy got his engine started and docked on the other side. As he and his wife walked past us toward the restaurant, he glared at me. I raised my beer, which made him walk faster. When they were gone, a server who watched everything brought our group free appetizers. The server told us it was the best thing they'd seen all summer and that the rich guy makes everyone miserable whenever he comes in. We spent the rest of the afternoon telling stories about entitled people we'd encountered, each trying to top the last tale. Being petty feels satisfying when it's deserved. If there's one thing I learned that day, it's that wealth doesn't buy manners. And if you're rude to someone who just helped you, don't be surprised when that help disappears. This happened over 20 years ago when home product parties were popular. Someone hosts at their house, invites friends, and a sales rep shows products. Everyone feels pressure to buy something, and the host gets discounts based on sales. I didn't plan to host one of these parties. I wasn't into beauty products or making my friends buy things they didn't need. My coworker had become a body shop representative and needed to book parties. She asked everyone at the office, but they all made excuses. I felt bad for her. She needed extra money for her kids' braces. I agreed to host a small party at my apartment. I told her just a few friends, nothing big. She was happy and started planning right away. I invited 5 close friends and warned them they didn't have to buy anything. The night came. My living room had product displays on my coffee table. I made snacks and had wine ready. My friends arrived one by one, and we talked while waiting for everyone. The body shop rep came early to set up. She was friendly at first, arranging her products. When everyone arrived, she went into sales mode. The rep welcomed everyone and asked if we were ready for pampering. Nobody seemed excited. My friends looked at me like I owed them for this. She started with body scrubs and lotions, passing items around to smell and test. Some friends showed interest, and one liked a mango-scented body butter. The rep got more excited. Then she moved to facial care products. She told us these products were essential for healthy skin. She asked who used daily moisturizer. Most friends raised their hands halfway. I didn't. The rep noticed. She asked about my skincare routine. I told her I didn't have one. She looked shocked, like I'd said I didn't brush my teeth. She asked what I used on my face. I said just soap and water in the shower. My friends laughed. They knew I never used fancy beauty products. She asked if I used moisturizer, toner, or exfoliator. I said no, just soap. The rep changed from shocked to determined. She'd found her challenge. She told me I was missing out and my skin needed care, especially as we age. She said I might not see effects now, but prevention matters. She took out a jar of cream and explained what it did. The guests watched with amusement. She said the vitamin E moisturizer was perfect for beginners. Light, non-greasy, keeps skin hydrated all day. She held out the open jar. I put a finger in and rubbed it on my hand. I said it was nice, but I wasn't interested. She said my skin would thank me later and asked how I wanted to look in 10 years. I said I was fine and never used face creams and didn't plan to start. My friends watched us like a tennis match. The rep wouldn't give up. She wanted to convert me, probably seeing me as her biggest potential win. She asked if my skin felt tight or dry after washing. I said not really. She asked about fine lines around my eyes or mouth. I said I wasn't concerned. She was frustrated. I could see her thinking of more sales tactics. She told me to think long-term and said, genetics affect how skin ages. She asked what my mom's skin was like. The room got quiet. My friends shifted, knowing what would happen. I said I didn't know because my mom had been dead for 20 years. Complete silence. The rep's face went pale and her mouth opened and closed. My friends stared at their wine glasses. The rep said sorry. I told her it was fine, she couldn't know, but I still didn't want the moisturizer. She never recovered. She rushed through the rest of her presentation, barely looking at me. No one mentioned moisturizer again. A few friends bought small items out of pity. Lip balm, hand cream. After the rep left quickly, my friends laughed. One friend mentioned the rep's face when I talked about my mom. Another said they thought she would faint on my carpet. I said at least she stopped trying to sell me stuff. Another friend said it was the shortest body shop party ever and thanked me for the entertainment. We finished the wine and snacks, and my friends helped clean up. The rep never asked me to host again, and I never saw the products I ordered. My co-worker delivered my small order a week later, saying sorry for her friend. I didn't feel bad. People need to learn when to take no for an answer, especially when trying to profit from your insecurities. If my mom were still around, she would have found it funny too. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.